We're running old school here. We'll see if we can get the actual thing running, but we are recording it. So start off, Ms. Clary.
Father, thank you for entering into the spring equinox. It's a time of rebirth and you know, blue skies, snowdrops are coming up. This weekend is the maple syrup tour. And we appreciate all of that. Help us and guide us through our service today. In your name, amen.
Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. In the event we're called upon to evacuate the building, please follow the signs to the nearest exit. If you need assistance, please ask. Once outside the building, move to a safe distance away. Remember to follow all directions of first responders. And if you would, please silence your cell phones. Thank you.
Mr. Hanky. Mrs. Fedler.
Here.
Mr. Tall.
Here.
Mr. Shaw.
Here.
Mr. Hall.
Here.
Mr. Fisher.
Here.
Mr. Baker.
Here.
Mr. Nolan.
Here.
Mr. O'Brien. Mr. Hahn.
Here.
Mr. Campbell.
Here.
Mr. Skelly.
Here.
Mr. Hogan.
Here.
Mr. Wilson.
Here.
Mrs. Clary.
Here.
Mr. Wang.
Here.
Mr. Rosell.
Here.
Clerk would read the notice of public hearing on local law A of 2025.
Notice is hereby given that the Washington County Board of Supervisors will hold a public hearing in the Supervisors Chambers, Washington County Office Building B, Fort Edward, New York, on March 21st, 2025, at 10:05 a.m. to consider the adoption of proposed introductory local law A of 2025, a local law repealing and revoking the County of Washington's intention to override the tax levy limit for fiscal year 2025 pursuant to the laws of the state of New York and Section 3C of the General Municipal Law. Copies of said introductory local law A of 2025 are available on the county website and at the clerk of the board's office. Local law A of 2024 is hereby repealed. For fiscal year 2025, the budget adopted for the operations of the County of Washington and tax levy imposed therein was within the tax levy limit imposed by Chapter 97-2011. All persons interested in the subject matter of proposed introductory local law A of 2025 will be heard at that time and place concerning the same by order of the Board of Supervisors dated February 26, 2025.
I'll call the public hearing to order at 10:15. Anybody wishes to be heard on this matter? Is there anybody in the public wishes to be heard on this matter? Does anyone wish to be heard on public law or introductory local law A 2025? Having called 3 times and heard none, I will declare the public hearing closed at 10:15. You've got the condensed minutes for February 21st, 2025. I'll consider them accepted as mailed unless there's any additions or corrections. Are there any additions or corrections? Seeing none, we'll consider them accepted as mailed. And communications.
No communications.
Committee reports, audit. One of you guys have got it.
Chairman Hanky moving the audit committee.
Moved by Supervisor Hogan. Second. Fedler, Hall, Fisher, Baker, O'Brien, Wang, and Nolan. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We've come to this seat. Part of the room disappeared, so if I miss a second, wave a lot, because you have in your packet 2 proclamations. One in recognition of Dr. Duffy retiring at AC Adirondack, and another for one of my favorites, the National Crime Victims Week, which is April 6th through 12th. Supervisor, privilege of the floor. Anyone wish privilege? Mr. Hall.
We have with us today Mr. Keith Kaplan, Vice President for Administrative Services and Treasurer for SUNY Adirondack.
Thank you very much, Supervisor and members of the board. I just wanted to introduce myself. I started with SUNY Adirondack on January 21st, so 2 months ago today. I met with county staff, met with Supervisor Campbell as well. And I also want to extend my thanks on behalf of the college for the proclamation for Dr. Duffy. But I just wanted to really express my eagerness to work with county staff and with the supervisors to provide information anytime you folks need it, and to work very closely and collaboratively with the staff and with the supervisors during the budgeting process, which falls under my domain. So again, thank you very much for having me, and look forward to collaborating with all of you in the future.
Thank you. Any other privilege of the floor? Seeing none, we'll move on to the introduction of resolutions. I need a motion to set aside the rules for number 88 through 91 and have the clerk read the resolves only, starting with 88. Moved by Supervisor Fedler, second, Hall, Fisher, Hahn, and Noland. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 88 by Supervisor Campbell, title amend the 2025 budget, public safety for the Public Safety Responder Health Program. Resolved that the Board of Supervisors authorizes a waiver from the procurement policy for this contract, and be it further resolved that the county treasurer is hereby authorized to make the following budget amendment. Increase appropriation and increase appropriated fund balance $37,000. Resolution number 89 by Supervisor Wilson, to authorize chairman to apply for a grant to the Northern Border Regional Commission. Resolved, the Washington County Board of Supervisors hereby authorizes the submission of a grant application on behalf of Washington County to request NBRC funding for the Sewer District Number 2 Stormwater Separation Project. And be it further resolved that the chairman of the Board of Supervisors is hereby authorized to sign any and all documents necessary to effectuate the grant application in a form reviewed and approved by the county attorney. Resolution number 90 by Supervisor Hanky. Title to oppose Governor's Executive Order 47.3 and urge the rescission of said executive order. Resolution resolved, the Washington County Board of Supervisors hereby expresses its opposition to Executive Order 47.3 issued on March 10th, 2025, and urges the governor to rescind said executive order immediately, as it is unnecessarily punishes Washington County residents who were employed by the Department of Corrections from seeking employment in the Washington County workforce, and places elected and appointed officials in Washington County at risk of retaliation if they attempt to hire said residents. And be it further resolved that copies of this resolution be forwarded to Governor Kathy Hochul, Commissioner Daniel F. Martuscello III, Senators Stack and Ashby, members of the Assembly, Bendit, Simpson, and Warner. Resolution number 91 by Supervisor Hanky, authorized the county attorney to commence litigation regarding Executive Order 47.3 of the Governor of the State of New York concerning the county hiring of former employees of the New York State Department of Corrections and Community Supervision. Resolved that the Washington County Board of Supervisors hereby authorizes the county attorney Daniel S. Martindale to commence and/or participate in legal action against the governor of the State of New York, the State of New York, or such other defendants as he deems required on behalf of the county, Board of Supervisors, Personnel Director, Treasurer, or other plaintiff that he deems appropriate, in order to protect the home rule powers and other basic functions of the county government as it related to any modifications of the law set forth under Executive Order 47.3, and it is further resolved that the chairman is hereby authorized to execute any agreements or documents necessary to help further the litigation of this matter.
Under the consideration of the resolutions.
Resolution number 60 by Supervisors Wilson, Skelly, O'Brien, Shaw, Clary, Roselle, Fisher, Baker, Wang, title to award mini bid 2025E for 2,500 truck DPW manager.
Mr. Chairman, moving resolution number 60.
Supervisor Wilson, second. Bedler, Tall, Shaw, Hall, Fisher, Baker, O'Brien, Hahn, Clary, Wang, Rozell, and Noland. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 61 by Supervisors Wilson, Skelly, O'Brien, Shaw, Clary, Roselle, Fisher, Baker, Wang, title to award mini bid 2025G Sheriff 2,500 crew cab.
Mr. Chairman, moving resolution number 61.
Supervisor Wilson, second. Bedler, Tall, Shaw, Hall, Fisher, Baker, O'Brien, Hahn, Clary, Wang, and Noland. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 62 by Supervisors Wilson, Skelly, O'Brien, Shaw, Clary, Roselle, Fisher, Baker, Wang, title to award mini bid 2025H 3 Sheriff Durangos.
Mr. Chairman, moving resolution number 62.
Supervisor Wilson, second. Bedler, Tall, Hall, Fisher, Baker, O'Brien, Hahn, Clary, Wang, and Nolan. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Were these bids sent to all the town highway superintendents? Well, it would have been a good idea when, in case.
Oh, I think they are. That, you said in the meeting
Yes,
that
they
they
are,
were,
but-
said in the meeting, these were all being sent on. to the-
They were, okay. Thank you. Well, I'll ask her, and she can verify it, right? I don't have to ask you. Okay.
But she said in the meeting, it
Thank
would
you,
be
Mr.
all
Chairman.
forwarded on.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 63 by Supervisors Wilson, Skelly, O'Brien, Shaw, Clary, Roselle, Fisher, Baker, Wang, title to award various Department of Public Works bids for 2025.
Mr. Chairman, moving resolution number 63.
Supervisor Wilson, second. Bedler, Hall, Fisher, Baker, Hahn, Clary, Wang, and Nolan. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Resolution number 64 by Supervisors Wilson, Skelly, O'Brien, Shaw, Clary, Roselle, Fisher, Baker, Wang, title Resolution of the Board of Supervisors of Washington County classifying proposed project and seeking lead agency status by the Board of Supervisors of Washington County pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act relative to the proposed project for the design, funding, and construction of a process control and administration building and demolition of existing PCAB at the Washington County Sewer District Number 2 facility, including obtaining original furnishings, equipment, machinery, and apparatus in the Village of Fort Edward, Washington County, New York.
Mr. Chairman, moving resolution number 64.
Asked when we've actually done the seekers, I've just made a little statement up here. You've all read that and you all nod your head yes, and we go on. That doesn't work anymore. Apparently people are looking at our minutes and, asking the sewer agency if in fact we went through the seeker. So just like the last time we went through the 11 questions, next month we'll go through the 11 questions again. So it's not that I wimped out, just that they're requiring some different stuff now. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 65 by Supervisor Skelly, Wilson, Hogan, Roselle, Nolan, Baker, Hahn, title in support of changes to New York's discovery laws proposed in Governor Hochul's fiscal year 2026 executive budget.
Moving. Number 60.
Was asked to be moved by Supervisor Skelly. Is there a second? Bedler, Tall, Hall, Baker, Hahn, Campbell, and Nolan. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 66 by Supervisor Skelly, Wilson, Hogan, Roselle, Nolan, Baker, Hahn, title to adopt District Attorney's 2025 crime forfeiture spending plan.
Hahn and Nolan. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 67 by Supervisors Tall, Hall, Hogan, Wilson, Nolan, Baker, titled to authorize chairman to sign memorandum of understanding with the Association on Aging in New York.
Mr. Chairman, moving resolution number 67.
Noland. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 68 by Supervisors Campbell, Roselle, O'Brien, Shaw, Skelly, Hogan, Clary, Hall, Wilson, Nolan, Tall, title Advocating for Reform and Increased Funding for New York State's Code Blue Program.
Moving resolution 68.
On. Larry and Noland. Discussion. Just in general, this might be something we would add to our advocacy package next time we go to Albany. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 69 by Supervisors Campbell, Roselle, Shaw, Skelly, Clary, Hall, Wilson, Nolan, Tall, title Amend 2024 Budget Mental Health for Psychiatric Expense.
69.
Supervisor Campbell, second. Bedler, Tall, Hall, Clary, and Noland. Discussion. I would be remiss to not point out this is a $250,000 unfunded mandate. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. One.
Resolution number 70 by Supervisors Campbell, Roselle, O'Brien, Shaw, Skelly, Hogan, Clary, Hall, Wilson, Nolan, Tall, title Amend 2025 Budget Mental Health for Court-Based Mental Health Navigator Services.
Moving resolution 70.
Larry and Nolan. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 71 by Supervisors Campbell, Roselle, O'Brien, Shaw, Skelly, Hogan, Clary, Hall, Wilson, Nolan, Tall, title Amend 2025 Budget County Road Fund for Bridge Project Tools.
Moving 71.
Supervisor Campbell, second. Bedler, Tall, Hall, Hahn, Larry, and Noland. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 72 by Supervisors Campbell, Roselle, O'Brien, Shaw, Skelly, Hogan, Clary, Hall, Wilson, Nolan, Tall, title Amend 2025 Budget Sheriff to carry over unspent law enforcement technology grant.
72.
Supervisor Campbell, second. Bedler, Tall, Hall, Hahn, Larry, and Noland. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 73 by Supervisors Campbell, Roselle, O'Brien, Shaw, Skelly, Hogan, Clary, Hall, Wilson, Nolan, Tall, title Amend 2025 Budget Sheriff to carry over unspent body worn camera grant.
Resolution 73.
Supervisor Campbell, second. Bedler, Tall, Hall, Hahn, Larry, and Nolan. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 74 by Supervisors Campbell, Roselle, O'Brien, Shaw, Skelly, Clary, Hall, Wilson, Nolan, Tall, title Amend 2024 Budget for Public Health Early Intervention Program.
Moving 74.
Supervisor Campbell, second. Bedler, Tall, Hall, Larry, and Noland. Discussion. Mr. Shaw.
Yeah, this says the tuition expense is 166,000. State aid is 81, and it says now we're gonna apply a fund balance. We're using our fund balance to come up with 85,000. That one is,
You're going to see a lot of that in the very near future.
what is it?
It's a state mandated program.
So tell me, what happens if we didn't do this and we don't spend the 86,000?
I believe it's already spent, and this is just a way to fix your books before the year end.
Well,
You've already made the expense. You're just trying to cover where the money comes from.
well, but it's also a share, right? I mean, if part of it's coming from state aid, 81,000. If we did not appropriate the 85, would you just have 81,000 to spend or 81,700 to spend?
Already spent, so. you're
No,
just-
but that's not the question. I
You
understand
can
what you're
say
saying.
no, but the money's already gone, so then your books don't
Understand that,
match.
understand that, but in the budget, in the coming year, if we didn't appropriate that, would there be just 81,000 that would go towards that? Or do you have to spend the 86 to get the 81? Is what I'm trying to find.
This is on last year's
Either
budget.
Tammy or Al want to enlighten
Am
us
I
on this?
asking this wrong that I?
I was gonna answer for you.
All right,
Mr. Shaw, this is a required program that we have to provide. So
Okay.
whether you budget for it or not, it's going to happen. I need you to budget for it because it's going to happen. We can't say no to these bills. These bills are a required bill. You're going to see about 4 of these today. They're going to make you want to puke. This is only the first of them.
When are we gonna start saying no if we can't afford it?
Well, you got to contact your legislature because this is a required program. We cannot say no. I'm sorry? This is to clean up the budget. It's not to vote for the program, Mr. Hogan. The program has to be controlled in Albany. So the change you have to make is there. Saying no here is only, I don't want to say it's an act in futility because I don't want to discourage that. We should send a message. But the change has to happen in Albany to affect any real change. Ms. Clary?
Next year, are we going to be concerned about federal funding that drops down into this?
This year.
This year we are.
I wouldn't say next year. I'm already concerned. And I don't think that New York has a great relationship with the federal government right now, so it makes me even more nervous. Now, I'm not going to candy coat it. I don't have a warm and fuzzy feeling about the next 9 months.
Checks going out prior to the checks going out?
So we can change our process, Mr. Hahn. What we have advised the departments up until now was wait until you know what the number is, because as they start happening, we don't know what the order of magnitude is going to be. So rather than have 12 resolutions, one appearing in front of you every month, the advice they've been given in the past is wait till you know what the number is and then we'll fund that number. We can absolutely do it month by month going forward so that each month you see the order of magnitude for those bills going through the audit committee. We can absolutely do that.
Happen if
You still have to pay the bill. So then we have a bigger issue because you've now over appropriated your budget, which you cannot do either. So you have literally no control over something that it feels like you control.
why don't we just give our checkbook to Kathy Hochul?
But we've already done that.
So this is what I was trying to address in the March finance meeting. And when we do the budget every year, and I tell you that 90% we can't control, this is part of that 90% we can't control. So I was trying to address that we either have to look at things differently or do things differently if there's any room. The problem we're in right now, and Al and I had this discussion yesterday, and we've had it plenty of times in the past, is our budget is on calendar year. The state budget, we're still on last year's budget through the end of the month. So anything that's incurred in those first 3 months, we're already over every one of their caps. We may have lost $500,000, we may have lost 5 million already this year, and we have no way of knowing. That's what I'm trying to get out of DSS because it's the biggest nut to crack. If you're at $4 million in last year and you have the first 3 months on their budget number that we've already exceeded all their caps, I have no way of knowing what that number is. We need to be more data driven. It's not personal, even though some people take it that way. But if you spend money out of our fund balance that we have no control over, you do come under the microscope. I can't help that. That's our job to look at that. That's just the way it works. So right now, we're trying to find a way to track these as they come in. So I think what has happened in the past was the revenue has always made it. With these caps that they have put on, we actually approve the expenses. If the revenue is short, it automatically comes out. You don't need a resolution to pass what doesn't show up. It's your bill. So that's where the difference is, and it's the off years, and that's the same thing. The federal government, the last 3 months of this year will be on a new budget. So we know that we're probably going to get shellacked at the last 3 months. We don't know the magnitude. So it's not a pretty ending. There's nothing good I can tell you at this juncture in time, except we're digging as deep as we can dig to get to a solution.
Starting Monday, our MMIS goes up $20,000 a week, which again, we have no control over.
At least budgeted for that.
I don't know how it got to this point, but what do we do to stop it to get to this point? What steps do we have to take with the Assembly, Senate, state, whatever, before we get to this point?
So right now is your opportune time because they're in budget season. These guys love to legislate through their budget. Now is the time to make that change. When, and the commissioner could speak to this better than I, but when there's cost shifts to go from a 50% reimbursement to a 29% reimbursement, that can be a significant number for us. And we're not alone in this misery. I wouldn't want to be Saratoga County or Albany County with a much more diverse and much more large population. The impact on Washington County was 4 million. I can only imagine the impact on a county like Albany County.
Taxpayers in Washington County cannot afford what the state is making us pay, so we've got to do something somewhere.
And we had a very uncomfortable conversation about that yesterday because poor Mr. Campbell, I don't envy his job this year because not only does he have to find the gap that we know about, he's got to cover the $3 million gap that was already built into the 25 budget. I don't envy his job this year.
Who of us is in tax
All of you.
and what? Start.
As loud and as fast and as hard as you can. Yesterday. So unfortunately, Mr. Hogan, you're not wrong.
Something we will carry down in our advocacy stuff, but I share Mr. Hogan's complete lack of enthusiasm for success. Mr. Shaw was next.
Thank you. I think I understood what Brian said, but I think it could have been misunderstood. When he said in the very beginning of your conversation, you said we lost anywhere from $500,000 to, what was that number? $5 million already this year. We didn't lose that. That's how far we missed the budgeting our 2025 budget by is what you meant, correct? I mean, we couldn't have done anything different.
We could not have done anything different.
Right, so we didn't lose the money. All we didn't do really is what you mean is that we didn't raise taxes enough to cover those expenses that we didn't know about.
Fair statement.
That's a fair statement.
Yeah,
So
we got
what you're really saying is we needed to raise taxes by anywhere from $500,000 to $5 million more.
6. And that wasn't going to happen.
Right. No, so what I'm saying, we didn't lose anything with the budget we made. We just didn't cover all our expenses.
And how do you tell the taxpayers?
I guess I would not look at it that way. There's a case where we have caps that we've never hit before. So that wasn't on anyone's radar that they would hit the cap and be over them.
That's
So
not
we
the point
didn't-
I'm saying.
So
I'm
we
saying
didn't have
the only
a way
this
to
works is
know.
raise
Yeah,
taxes.
but we just had no way to know that money would not be coming. Now we will figure out a way to know those caps, so we will be aware.
If my projection is correct, we will end 24 at 15 million unreserved, unappropriated, and you're going to have that uncomfortable conversation with me that we had when we had the issue in Fort Edward. That's not a good number.
I would raise taxes 47% in 1 year.
Yeah.
And we're looking at that again. And you're gonna be looking at worse than that. You're gonna be looking at cutting, paving roads and everything unless this can get corrected. And Bob, I don't know how we do it, but we've got some serious issues that we're facing.
I'm just glad everyone got the word. That's what March's finance is about.
I understand that the budget officer and the treasurer have to abide by the laws and the rules that are given them for these monies. But I think it's incumbent on the rest of us as representatives of our people to stand up against government overreach. And I think it's time to stand up now. Are we going to wait until we're bankrupt to start fighting the state on these things that counties can't afford?
At the public hearing on the local law to say we weren't going to override the tax cap because we saw what would happen. Unlike the towns, the state says if you even pass your law saying you can override, we're going to take away this, 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 and this. And we only saw the first thises. So if we do whatever, was required to raise the taxes, they're going to take away so much other additional revenue. It's going to basically double that by. The whole issue is the unfunded mandates, and you're right, we keep going and thrashing on it. I'm not sure, I've suggested not paying some bills in the past and discovered the ramifications down the road from that. Said, yeah, all right, you don't do that, we're going to take away this, this, and this. So important programs, just that the county shouldn't be paying for them. They should be state. County. And, it's not one I can completely speak against, because I know some cases that has been very effective, very helpful, and very wonderful for some of the, our kids coming up, and they are, members of the tax-paying group. So I can't speak against the program per se. I just have to speak against the fact that we are mandated to pay for it, the county funds. All right, now you two guys already spoke. Anybody want to speak before these guys? All right, Mr. O'Brien.
Resolution 74 and 75, it's almost impossible to predict whether you're going to have 1 or 12. It's almost impossible.
The state reimbursement thing does not include that. They say, yeah, you have to do it and we'll pay you up to this amount.
My question is for Dan. Do we have any legal standing where we could challenge this in court? The fact that they mandate the money, they take the money anyways, and we don't have any.
Try, I don't
we
know
don't
that
have
we'll be
any say.
successful. I could, but I'll
All the counties would have to band
on this
together to-
on this particular issue. I mean, everybody here knows my son went through this, so I do have an affinity for this program. So I color it with that bias, but as with anything else, I mean, we're going to be talking about something in a little bit about challenging the governor's mandate, which I think we may have a little more success on. But when it comes to the budgetary matters, you know, we elect, you folks get elected to do a budget here, the state legislators get elected to do a budget there. And we have to try to do the best we can with it. I mean, as I said, we can try. I'm not so sure we'll succeed.
You got a leather strap you can bite down on, Mr. Shaw. This isn't even, 78's going to hurt. If this one sent you sideways, 78's going to hurt. So stay tuned.
Yes, I did. I wanted it to explain. Treasure, that I'm very well aware that it's gonna hurt. But I think what some people are missing the point, and this is where I'm frustrated. Like Dave's saying that, and Brian has mentioned it, it's budgeting enough money to cover it. It's not. What you have to do is raise taxes to cover it. And if we're more aware of more technology, that we know when we're building our budget for next year, what the costs are going to be, you still got to cover it. So that only leaves raising taxes to do it. Or you eliminate costs to the county, and the only place you can eliminate it is what we have our own control over. Carpool, and the DPW, we could cut all kinds of services. But when it comes to our social programs that the state mandates, you can't cut that. And that is what is killing us. And I totally agree with Brian. That's what's killing us. So everybody's saying here, well, you know, we'll not be better aware, and it's not going to make a difference. Totally make no difference because you have to raise taxes to cover the shortfall.
And I'm very interested
I
in,
wish we could encourage our taxpayers to read that little slip we put in with the taxes each time about how much we can control and things. Mr. Tall, then.
I agree with you that it's raising taxes. I think our principal issue is which taxes? Should they mandate property taxes or income taxes? And we shouldn't be talking about state mandate as much as the source of the income that we need should be from income taxes, not property taxes, because every taking of property taxes increases. If we raise $10 million more in property taxes, that takes out of the equity value 5 million would be 50 times that, 250 million of equity value of the homeowners and the property owners. Because every time you raise taxes, you multiply that by 50, that's the net present value that you're taking out of equity.
I feel like we've been having this conversation for 4 years about what we're going to do. I mean, Al had came to us with an 8% sales tax increase because he knew we were going to get to this big black hole. Okay, this is money that's going to be potentially pulled from the state that will drop down to the county. I think it's, Brian's been trying to warn us. Al's been trying to warn us. We've looked at additional revenue. I think that it's time to get the pencils out and sharpen them and figure out how we look for a solution rather than just tossing all this information aside. Regarding these programs, there's a waiting list. This doesn't cover everybody. This is actually, there's a big waiting list for some of these. And so this is not 100% of taking care of everybody. This is just a small portion. So it's time to come to the table and actually look for solutions. I thank Brian and Al for trying to lead us into the black
hole.
I know the 8% is very distasteful,
Yeah.
but I'd be remiss if I didn't at least bring it to you. Mr. Hunt, I'm very interested in your philosophy in biting these monthly rather than, so maybe you should know in May or June that there's already deficiencies in the current budget and not wait till we have a handle on the number. Maybe you should know monthly to have this discussion more timely. I'm very interested in that adopting that model going forward. It'd be changing philosophy, but I think it has value. that you hear it every month, not just in January or February when we're closing the books and go, Jesus Christ. You know, that doesn't help you, other than put you in a panic attack for this budget season. And I'd much rather have you engaged in June than March of the following year. So I'd like to talk about that further at finance.
I believe it could give us the opportunity to find some more timely solutions, and stay caught up with it instead of playing catch up at the end of the fiscal year, you know?
Yes, sir.
So, I have one more thing to say and then I'll stop talking. Just a question. Did I hear Mr. Shaw say raise taxes multiple times?
It's his last year.
That was good.
Anybody else before we get back to Brian? Okay, back to Brian.
So I want to tie together what Charlie said and what Sue said, because I think Charlie's on the part about it should be an income tax cost. A lot of these things should be, and here's why I say that. If you put that on the property tax, what it really does, it's going to cause a huge resentment for the very people you're trying to help with the very people that are paying the bill. When it's state income tax, they don't quite see it the same way. I don't know that the state realizes how bad that can be, and that'll be community by community, and they won't be able to put that fire out. That would be my concern, that the very people you're trying to help are resented by the very people paying the bill, and that can be very destructive. And that would not be good for us.
Eight, they're really good.
We could just play it back, the whole thing for.
Hey, you want me to stick around, Mr. Shaw? I'll just hang up. Yeah.
Okay. On 74, which is as far as we got. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Resolution number 75 by Supervisors Campbell, Roselle, O'Brien, Shaw, Skelly, Clary, Hall, Wilson, Nolan, Tall. Title amend 2024 budget for public health preschool program.
Moving resolution 75.
Discussion. Ditto. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Hey,
Resolution number 76 by Supervisors Campbell, Roselle, O'Brien, Shaw, Skelly, Hogan, Clary, Hall, Wilson, Nolan, Tall. Title amend 2025 budget, Youth Bureau for pretrial services award.
76.
Harry and Noland. Discussion. What's the D stand for in Scott? Dehan, it's not Dana, is it?
no, sir.
All right.
I do look forward to a time when I don't hear about him.
Yeah. Okay.
It may be a while.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 77 by Supervisors Campbell, Roselle, O'Brien, Shaw, Skelly, Hogan, Clary, Hall, Wilson, Nolan, Tall. Title amend budget capital project number 132, sewer district capital improvements.
Moving 77.
Harry and Noland. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 78 by Supervisors Campbell, Roselle, O'Brien, Shaw, Skelly, Clary, Hall, Wilson, Nolan, Tall. Title amend general fund 2024 budget for Department of Social Services.
78.
Aye.
I'm gonna vote for it anyway. I'm just gonna tell you that you have 1 week left to get that 700,000, so I have no optimism at all that 700,000 makes it this next week. That's really a lot bigger number.
Hey,
Nay.
Roselle, Hogan, and Hahn.
Resolution number 79 by Supervisors Campbell, Roselle, O'Brien, Shaw, Skelly, Hogan, Clary Hall, Wilson, Nolan, Tall. Title Amend 2025 Budget to carry over unspent ARP funds for foster care and daycare services.
79.
Moved by Supervisor Campbell, second. Fedler, Tall, Hall, Hahn, Clary, and Noland. Discussion. All those in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 80 by Supervisors Campbell, Roselle, O'Brien, Shaw, Skelly, Hogan, Clary Hall, Wilson, Nolan, Tall. Title Rescind Resolution number 50 of 2025 and amend the staffing pattern and title by grade for Infection Control Communicable Disease Coordinator.
Brady.
Carried. And Noland. Discussion. This is a roll call.
Mr. Hanky.
Yes.
Mrs. Fedler. Mr. Tall.
Yes.
Mr. Shaw.
Yes.
Mr. Hall.
Yes.
Mr. Fisher.
Yes.
Mr. Baker. Mr. Nolan.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien. Mr. Hahn. Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Skelly. Mr. Hogan. Mr. Wilson.
Yes.
Mrs. Clary.
Yes.
Mr. Wang. Mr. Rozell.
Yes.
The resolution is adopted, 4,690 yes. Resolution number 81 by Supervisors Campbell, Roselle, O'Brien, Shaw, Skelly, Hogan, Clary Hall, Wilson, Nolan, Tall. Title Amend 2025 Budget Board of Elections for General Election and Mail Ballot Grants.
Supervisor Campbell, second. Fedler, Tall, Hall, Fisher, Clary. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Resolution number 82 by Supervisors Campbell, Roselle, O'Brien, Shaw, Skelly, Clary Hall, Wilson, Nolan, Tall. Title Amend General Fund 2024 Budget for Community College Chargeback Billings.
2.
There was discussion one time about not paying the tuition to the Fashion Institute. I see that's still on there. Wasn't there discussion that wasn't going to be paid because that wasn't a college, community college?
We tried and failed.
Yeah, I think it failed, and I think some other county actually did do it and failed. So,
Could fail, but it's like all these other things we're talking about. What's right and appropriate and rational doesn't necessarily translate in New York State. Mr. Hahn.
Hi, Mr. Chairman, I a question for Al again. How, setting the Fashion Institute aside, how does that all come out in the wash between us sending money and what we get in for our community college?
I'm,
you're looking for the relationship.
Is there, do we take in more than we put out? Do we take in less?
oh, God, no. We do have a 1/4% mortgage tax that we apply to our local share of ACC, but it's completely taxpayer funds that fund these.
That the money coming to the college that we are in charge of gets a huge benefit from the same
So
program.
SUNY Adirondack, the two sponsors aren't even the biggest contributor. Believe it or not, Saratoga County pays more than we do at SUNY Adirondack. And that's the chargebacks, that's these that they're paying our community college. But this group of community colleges is completely taxpayer funded. Our 1/4% mortgage tax goes to help offset our contribution to SUNY Adirondack.
Maybe I worded the question wrong. My question is, we send out $128,291 in chargebacks.
That's a shortfall. We send out way more than that.
It coming in as
We don't-
chargebacks.
we don't get chargebacks. The chargebacks go directly to SUNY Adirondack. The county doesn't receive any money for chargebacks.
Do we send more in just the college in general? Do we send more out in chargebacks than we get back in? The answer is no, because we looked into what if we weren't a sponsor? And the fact that Saratoga County is such a huge amount paying in, the chargebacks coming in are more than our chargebacks we're paying out. So that's, I think, what you're asking.
That's my
right?
question. That's
think the part, because you haven't probably seen this or been explained before, these are all our own kids that we're paying for. These are all Washington County kids that the chargebacks of the different colleges, just so you know.
I understand that. I was wondering if there's as many kids coming to our community colleges, there are our kids going out. And don't get me wrong, I support education and I think we should, but, I was just curious about that money.
Because in the past, the answer has been yes, we're getting more back in.
Our biggest contribution that we make is to Hudson Valley. Our largest Washington County resident that we pay for is to Hudson Valley. And I think it's because of specific programs that they offer. And
That would have been funny if it was true.
our Fashion Institute tuition used to be a 50% reimbursement from the state, but they put those magic words in subject to appropriation and they don't appropriate for it. So we don't get that 50% anymore either.
Another way for us to take care of all the situations we talk about is subject to appropriations. And if we don't appropriate, they know the state
Well,
can get their money.
In another forum, possibly at government ops, possibly at next finance, we're going to have a conversation because I'm very interested in what Mr. Hahn brought up about, I'm not opposed to slowing down the payment of some bills subject to appropriations. So we're going to have a little bit more serious conversation about that in the very near future. So that way, each month, you're going to talk about shortfalls. Those bills will be held for another 30 days, and so be it.
Comment on any comment on 82? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 83 by Supervisors Campbell, Roselle, O'Brien, Shaw, Skelly, Hogan, Clary Hall, Wilson, Nolan, Tall. Title: Amend 2025 County Clerk Budget to carry over unspent local government records management improvement fund grant.
83.
Aye.
Resolution number 84 by Supervisors Campbell, Roselle, O'Brien, Shaw, Skelly, Hogan, Clary Hall, Wilson, Nolan, Tall. Title: Amend 2025 Budget for Division of Criminal Justice Services Aid to Defense for Discovery Reform Grant.
Four.
Carrie and Nolan, discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 85 by Supervisors Campbell, Roselle, O'Brien, Shaw, Skelly, Hogan, Clary Hall, Wilson, Nolan, Tall. Title: To amend 2024 budget, assign council for Division of Criminal Justice Services Aid to Defense Supplemental Grant.
5.
Carrie and Nolan, discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 86 by Supervisors Campbell, Roselle, O'Brien, Shaw, Skelly, Clary Hall, Wilson, Nolan, Tall. Title: Imploring the state legislature to adopt a constitutional amendment to remove Great Meadow Correctional Facility from the State Forest Preserve.
Resolution number 86.
Question. Mr. Shaw.
Is there any way you could track this? If when, we send this to the state legislature, correct? Now, is it just to our representatives or does it go as a blanket letter? And so the whole assembly and Senate receives it? Well, is there, my point is on this, when we do this, which I think is great, that we make this attempt, is there any way you can track it to see if our representatives from our district are in any way being responsive to our request? Is that an unreasonable ask?
Ordinarily, they respond somehow and say, send us letters saying, yes, we got this, and I'm gonna do such and so.
Okay,
We can
well, as long
We can
as
also,
we
when we
get
get down, we can also ask them.
Well, I think it's important that the whole board knows when we do something like this, that our state representatives are listening to it. That's all.
Mr. Shaw, I can also state that Essex County, I believe, is planning on passing a similar resolution. I don't know about the other counties, but I know I was asked by, we were asked by Essex County to get a copy of our resolution, so they're probably going to pass something similar.
It'd be just good to know that at least our representatives are supporting us in our endeavors. That's where I'm going. Thank you.
Aye.
Resolution number 87 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Shaw, Skelly, Hogan, Clary Hall, Nolan, Tall, titled to adopt introductory local law A of 2025.
Moving 87.
Adler, Call, Hall, O'Brien, Hahn, and Nolan. Discussion. Mr. Wilson.
So for the 2026 budget, when are we going to start these conversations with overriding the tax cap? Based on what Mr. Shaw said 3 or 4 times. But the point being, Mr. Chairman, to your statement several times over the period of years I've heard, is when are we going to send another message back to Albany that says we need some responsible governance here about the state budget and what the unfunded mandates do to us down here at the local level. So I think we're going to repeat this conversation with this resolution again this year, and I think we should. And maybe we ought to start the conversation a little bit earlier. Thank you.
Started to see what was gonna happen. If we even pass the thing, it's gonna have severe budget impacts if we say, yeah, we gotta override the tax cap and do 10% or whatever. We gotta also factor in, oh yeah, and when you do that, they're gonna stop sending this, and this. So you've got a compounding effect of overriding, which I think is good to know. We didn't really know that exactly how that was gonna happen before, and now we've got pretty good indication. Mr. Nolan?
Yeah, if there's a value to it, right? If we have that data, we understand the impact, the financial impact of an override.
And I'll try to get that for you because the one thing that we know is raise the age. If that's the only thing we lose, we should have the conversation. The other thing I want to bring onto your radar is I've presented a resolution at NISAC because I get to sit on the Tax and Finance Committee now. So I get to have a little bit of a voice that I didn't have before. I will follow up on it. Currently, there is an exemption in your tax cap if they raise your retirement contribution more than 2%. That gives you an exclusion from your tax cap calculation. My resolution that I presented was these unfunded mandates are also measurable. And if your unfunded mandate exceeds 2%, that could be an exclusion from your tax cap. It doesn't make me feel any more warm and fuzzy, and it doesn't make your taxpayers feel any more warm and fuzzy. But I think at least if they have to be held accountable for an increase over 2%, maybe they'll at least think before they pass a budget. If they know that they're going to be held accountable for anything over 2%, I hope it at least gives them pause. I have to try.
Correct, because what's the definition of insanity, right? So we got to figure something out. There's only so many levers we can pull. We just got to figure out what those levers are and what the impact is. Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hanky, Mrs. Fedler,
Yes.
Mr. Tall,
Yes.
Mr. Shaw, Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Nolan,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien, Mr. Hahn,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Skelly, Mr. Hogan, Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clary,
Yes.
Mr. Wang, Mr. Rozell.
Yes.
The resolution is adopted, 4,690 yes. Resolution number 88 by Supervisor Campbell, title amend the 2025 budget, public safety for the Public Safety Responder Health Program.
Moving number 88.
Aye.
Resolution number 89 by Supervisor Wilson, title to authorize chairman to apply for a grant to the Northern Border Regional Commission.
Mr. Chairman, moving resolution 89.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Now, before we proceed with the additional resolutions, I would like to ask for a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing proposed litigation.
Move, Chairman.
Supervisor Hall, second. Fedler, Tall. On Wilson and Nolan. Favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We will go into executive. For the audience, we will be taking action of some